Harper Lane didn't scream. She didn't slam a door or break a single dish. She simply folded the last sweater she owned, once bright yellow, now washed into a tired pastel, and laid it gently into a suitcase that had already stopped zipping properly. The silence inside the luxury apartment on Riverside Drive was unnerving, like the sound you hear right before a chandelier falls. Behind her, Trenton Hale leaned against the marble kitchen counter, twirling the keys to his brand new Mercedes, as if he were rehearsing a victory speech. "You'll figure something out," he said casually, scrolling his phone. "You're resourceful, in your own little way." Her own little way. 7 years together, and that was what she'd become. Small, manageable, convenient to blame. Harper zipped the suitcase, forcing it before picking up the painting she'd never finished. It was supposed to be a portrait of a woman breaking through a dark canvas. The irony wasn't lost on her. Trenton's voice floated across the room. "Oh, and Harper, before you go, I need your signature. Legal says we have to finalize the dissolution clause." She froze. The dissolution clause. The document he'd tricked her into signing months earlier. The one he claimed was, for tax purposes, but really stripped her of every right she had, including access to their joint accounts. Her fingers tightened around the painting's frame. "All those years of me supporting your career," she whispered. Trenton scoffed. "Supporting? Harper, you painted at home. That's a hobby, not a livelihood." She didn't respond. Words would only stain the air, and she needed all the clean air she could get. She tucked the painting under her arm, lifted the suitcase, and walked past him. He didn't look up, not when she reached the door, not when she stepped into the hallway, not even when the elevator chimed like a funeral bell closing. Outside, New York's winter wind hit her like a slap. The city lights reflected off the East River, glittering cold and distant, as if the whole skyline were quietly judging her for staying this long. She dragged the suitcase toward the curb, her breath trembling into the air. She didn't cry, not yet. Not for a man like Trenton. Her phone buzzed. A notification. A job cancellation. Another cancellation. And then her bank app flashing red. Account frozen. Harper's knees weakened. Trenton had moved faster than she imagined. He'd dismantled her life in minutes. She was officially alone, broke, and homeless in a city that didn't slow down for anyone, least of all a woman it assumed would quietly disappear. But New York had a strange way of rewriting stories, especially for those who had nothing left to lose. A black SUV rolled up beside her, windows tinted darker than midnight. It slowed. Stopped. The back door opened a fraction, just enough for a voice to call her name. Soft, deep, unfamiliar. "Harper Lane?" She stiffened, suitcase handle rattling in her grip. No one should know her name here. Not tonight. Not after everything had been taken from her. And yet someone did. Someone who would change everything. Harper Lane didn't remember when love had stopped feeling like warmth and started feeling like a quiet, suffocating room with no windows. She only knew it hadn't happened overnight. It had been a slow erosion, like a coastline, losing ground inch by inch, until one morning she woke up and realized she no longer recognized the woman staring back at her. She had met Trenton Hale when she was 23, still carrying her sketchbook everywhere she went, convinced that New York would eventually notice her. He noticed her first. He was charming back then, obsessively so. He'd show up at her tiny studio apartment with takeout from places she couldn't afford, pretending it was romantic generosity and not financial leverage. "You shouldn't worry about bills," he'd tell her. "Artists need space to create." Space. She thought he meant emotional. Turns out, he meant professional. When his career at Hale & Co. started climbing, Trenton suggested she sign a protective partnership agreement. "It's just paperwork," he'd said, brushing her hair behind her ear. "Something to keep us aligned, something couples do." She thought she was agreeing to commitment. She was really signing away independence. The agreement limited her ability to take art commissions without approval. It also funneled all income, even hers, into a single joint account controlled by him. Harper didn't notice it at first. Love made logic fuzzy. Then came Savannah Brooks. Savannah entered like a gust of designer perfume and ambition, hired as Trenton's junior assistant. Harper remembered the first dinner they shared, Savannah asking too many questions about Harper's career, her habits, her contacts. Later that night, Harper received an email from a gallery rejecting her proposal because she had missed a deadline she never saw. She now knew why. That rejection had Savannah's fingerprints all over it. Trenton became busier, colder. Harper became smaller, quieter. He began criticizing her art subtly at first, then bluntly. "Your work is too emotional," he'd say over morning coffee. "People want clean lines, minimalism, something marketable." He no longer wanted a partner. He wanted decor. A woman who matched the aesthetic he was curating for his image. When Harper tried once to confront him about feeling boxed in, he smiled the same condescending smile he had worn earlier tonight. "You're overthinking things again. You always do." It was the first time she'd doubted her own instincts, and the beginning of a long pattern of gaslighting that would turn her confidence into dust. The worst moment, though, came last year when she discovered a folder in his office labeled Harper's Stability Assessment. It contained notes about her emotional inconsistency, career volatility, and dependency tendencies. He wasn't loving her. He was documenting her for a future she wasn't supposed to survive. Rose's voice echoed in her mind from earlier that afternoon when Harper accidentally mentioned the clause, "Never sign something you don't fully understand, sweetheart." Men like him don't build cages overnight. They build them quietly, one favor, one compliment, one signature at a time. On the cold sidewalk now, suitcase at her feet, Harper realized she had lived inside a cage for 7 years, and tonight was the first time she had actually seen the bars. A gust of winter wind pushed her hair back, and she straightened her spine, not in defiance, but in recognition. Something inside her had finally woken up, and then the black SUV door opened wider. The voice repeated her name, firmer this time. "Harper Lane, we need to talk." She turned because the past had collapsed, and the future was suddenly standing right in front of her. Harper Lane had imagined rock bottom before, but she never realized it had an actual zip code, Queens 11417, printed on the peeling mailbox of the building where her new rented room waited. The air smelled like old radiator heat, and last night's fried food drifting up from the deli downstairs. Not glamorous, not comfortable, not even particularly safe. But it was hers. Or at least as hers as something could be when paid for with the last $212 left in her checking account before Trenton froze it. Rose Callahan stood in the hallway like a small but immovable mountain, gray hair in a bun, house slippers shaped like sleeping cats, and a stare that saw more than Harper wanted it to. "You the girl for room 2B?" Rose asked, not unkindly. "Yes," Harper managed. Her suitcase wobbled as she pulled it inside. The room was barely the size of the walk-in pantry she'd had at Riverside Drive. A twin mattress pushed against the wall, a window that didn't close all the way, a heater that hissed like it held a grudge. "Still," Harper whispered, "thank you." To no one in particular. Gratitude was easier to hold than despair. Rose watched her with an expression that mixed pity and calculation. "You got anyone helping you, sweetheart?" Harper opened her mouth, closed it, shook her head. Rose nodded slowly, as if confirming a diagnosis. "Thought so. You've got that look." "What look?" Harper asked. "The look of a woman who finally left the wrong man, but hasn't figured out yet how much he took with him when she walked out." Harper's chest tightened. Rose continued, "I used to be a divorce lawyer, retired now. I've seen your kind of silence before. It's not weakness, it's shock." Harper sat on the edge of the bed. Shock sounded too gentle for what she felt, but maybe shock was the stage before the real pain arrived. She spent the next hours unpacking the fragments of the life she'd been allowed to keep. A chipped mug, 3 worn sketchbooks, her pencils, the unfinished painting. The room felt too small to hold her memories, but too large for her fear. She opened her sketchbook to distract herself. A blank page stared back, judgmental, cold, demanding. Her hand trembled as she drew the first line, the pencil catching slightly on the cheap paper. She sketched a rib cage made of broken picture frames, a heart stitched with receipts and agreements. She didn't know what it meant yet, but it felt like something inside her was trying to claw its way out. A knock on the door startled her. Rose stepped in, holding a cup of chamomile tea. "You should drink. You look like someone who hasn't slept in weeks." Harper took the cup. "Thank you. Really? Interester." Rose hesitated, then said, "I heard you on the phone earlier. Is he the kind who'd try to rewrite the story to save himself?" Harper swallowed. "Yes." Rose nodded knowingly. Then you'd better prepare, sweetheart. Men like that don't let go. They strike back when they realize the thing they controlled learned how to walk away. Harper stared out the cracked window, watching the glow of Manhattan flicker in the distance like a mirage of the life she'd just lost. Then her phone buzzed with an unknown number. She almost didn't answer. Almost. But she did. And the moment she heard the voice on the other end, her entire fate shifted again. The Whitestone Pier wasn't fancy enough to make magazine covers, but it had that quiet riverfront charm that made Manhattan professionals cross the bridge for dinner. Dim lights, warm wood, a skyline view that felt like a postcard, just enough elegance to make customers feel important, but not enough to intimidate them. For Harper Lane, it was survival disguised as employment. She'd taken the night shift because it paid an extra $2 an hour, and extra dollars were the difference between eating dinner and pretending chamomile tea counted as a meal. Harper tied her apron, smoothing out wrinkles that wouldn't go away no matter how hard she pressed them. The manager, Victor, strutted out of his office, holding a clipboard like it was a weapon. "Lane," he said, scanning the room. "You're on the river tables tonight. We've got a VIP reservation. Don't screw it up." She blinked. "VIP?" Victor lowered his voice. "Manhattan level VIP." Name came through a private assistant. Simple request. Table by the window. No substitutions, no interruptions. Harper nodded, though her stomach tightened. VIPs meant higher pressure and higher stakes. If anything went wrong, even slightly wrong, she'd be the first blamed. Dolores, the veteran server with a heart like steel wool, rough but ultimately warm, leaned over. "Don't let Victor scare you. Rich people can choke on water just like the rest of us." Harper cracked a smile. Dolores always knew how to pull her back from the edge. As the evening picked up, Harper moved from table to table with practiced grace, though exhaustion tugged at her like an invisible anchor. Her tips were decent, enough to make her think maybe, just maybe, this new life wouldn't drown her. Then Victor tapped her shoulder sharply. "Lane." "He's here." She followed his gaze toward the entrance. A tall man walked in, wearing a charcoal coat that looked like it cost more than her yearly rent. No entourage, no flashy gestures. Just a presence, quiet, controlled, almost unsettling in its composure. Elias Mercer. She didn't know his face, but she recognized the expression, someone who lived in a world where people always wanted something from him. She grabbed a menu, steadied her breath, and walked toward him. "Good evening, sir," she said. "Welcome to Whitestone Pier. My name is—" "I know," he interrupted softly. "You're Harper Lane." Her heart skipped. "How?" "Your manager told me," Elias replied, though his eyes held a flicker of something else, recognition she couldn't place. She guided him to the riverfront table. As she set down the menu, his phone buzzed. One glance at the screen, his jaw tightened. "Change of plan," he murmured. "Someone leaked my location. Paparazzi." That explained the tension. "I'm sorry," Harper said instinctively. "It's not your fault," Elias said, eyes narrowing as he looked toward the windows. "But it does mean I need a favor." Her breath hitched. "A favor?" Elias leaned forward slightly, lowering his voice. "If someone comes in with a camera, I can't look like I'm here alone. I need cover." Harper blinked. "Cover? As in, sit down. Pretend we're having dinner together." She stared at him, stunned. "Why me?" His gaze held hers steady, unreadable. "Because you're the only one in this room who looks like she won't sell the story." Before she could answer, the restaurant door chimed, and a figure stepped inside, holding a camera. Elias looked at Harper and said the words that would change everything. "Sit, now." Harper Lane didn't have time to think. The second Elias Mercer said, "Sit," instinct took over. She slid into the chair across from him just as the man with the camera lingered by the entrance, pretending to browse the menu board while angling his lens toward their table. Her pulse hammered. She'd never been in the same room with paparazzi before, much less the focus of their zoom lens. Elias kept his posture calm, almost bored, like someone accustomed to turning chaos into background noise. "Just follow my lead," he murmured, lifting his water glass as if proposing a toast. Harper mimicked the gesture, though her hand trembled just enough for the water to ripple. The flash went off. Harper flinched. Elias didn't. He leaned back casually, lowering his voice. "That one works for a financial gossip site. They've been trying to link me to a rumored partnership with a hedge fund." If they catch a photo of me eating here alone, they'll assume I'm meeting their CEO. And if they catch a photo of you with me? Harper asked. His eyes softened just slightly. Then they'll assume it's personal. And personal stories sell less than business scandals. She wasn't sure if that was comforting or insulting, but considering the stakes, she accepted it. The server walked by, wide-eyed, clearly terrified of bothering them. Harper gave a small nod to indicate she was fine. Elias's gaze followed the movement, almost curious. You're surprisingly calm, he said. She gave a short, humorless laugh. This isn't even the worst thing that's happened to me this week. For a moment, just a moment, his expression shifted into something like sympathy. But before he could speak, the cameraman stepped closer, pretending to admire the river view while snapping another shot. Elias leaned forward, lowering his voice even more. Laugh. What? If we look tense, they'll think we're hiding something. Laugh. Harper forced a breathy chuckle, then another. It wasn't convincing. Elias surprised her by saying something under his breath, something so unexpectedly dry and absurd that a real laugh burst out of her before she could stop it. Her shoulders relaxed, warmth replaced panic. The paparazzo lowered the camera, satisfied. He walked away. Harper exhaled. Is it always like this for you? Not always, Elias said, but often enough that I avoid dining in public. Tonight, I didn't have a choice. Why here, of all places? She asked. A meeting I couldn't cancel, he replied, and a moment of poor judgment. He didn't elaborate. Harper studied him. Elias Mercer didn't look like the billionaire she'd glimpsed on magazine covers. He looked tired, human. Like someone who carried entire worlds on his shoulders and hadn't found a place to set any of them down. Before she could ask anything else, a girl at a nearby table gasped. Oh my God, she whispered to her friend. Is that Elias Mercer? And who is that woman with him? Her phone lifted. Camera aimed. Harper's stomach dropped. Elias's eyes sharpened. Too late. The girl took the video. A clear shot of Harper's face, the caption already forming in her mind. And Harper understood. This wasn't just a fake dinner anymore. This was the beginning of a storm she wasn't ready for. The first sign that something had gone terribly wrong came the next morning, when Harper Lane woke to the sound of her prepaid phone vibrating non-stop against the nightstand. At first, she thought it was an alarm. Then she saw the notifications, hundreds of them flooding her screen like a digital avalanche. Mentions, tags, unknown numbers, and worst of all, a video. The video. The same girl from the restaurant had uploaded the clip to TikTok. It was 15 seconds long, just Harper laughing across the table from Elias Mercer. The Manhattan skyline glittered behind them like 1,000 knowing eyes. The caption read, Who is the mystery woman dining with billionaire Elias Mercer? The video already had 1.7 million views. Harper's blood ran cold. She scrolled through the comments, some innocent, some playful, many vicious. She's pretty, in a teacher on her day off way. Definitely not rich. Look at her nails. Mercer can do better. She's a gold digger for sure. Harper dropped the phone. Her hands shook so violently she had to sit down before her knees buckled. Rose Callahan knocked on the half-open door. Sweetheart, you okay? Harper couldn't speak. She simply handed over the phone. Rose squinted at the screen, then let out a low whistle. Well, that's one way to start a Tuesday. This can't be happening, Harper whispered. I didn't do anything. I just sat down. And laughed, Rose added. Don't forget that part. Harper's breaths got uneven. My face is everywhere, Rose. My name, my life, they're going to find out everything. Trenton. Oh God. Trenton's going to think. A second vibration hit her phone. Then another. Then dozens. Harper forced herself to look. Text messages poured in from a number she'd sworn she'd never answer again. Trenton Hale. I see you've moved on quickly. Dining with billionaires? Really, Harper? Whatever game you're playing, stop. You're embarrassing yourself. You're embarrassing me. Harper felt the familiar burn of humiliation tightening her throat. Even now, even after kicking her out, he still believed her choices revolved around him. But then, the messages escalated. If you don't clear this up, I'll have to protect my image. Meaning, I will tell people exactly what kind of woman you really are. Harper's stomach twisted. She knew exactly what that meant. Trenton would paint himself the victim. He'd call her unstable, dependent, manipulative, emotional. All the things he'd spent years conditioning her to fear. Rose clenched her jaw. He's setting up a narrative. Men like him always do. I didn't ask for any of this, Harper whispered. No, Rose said. But now you need to decide whether you're going to survive it or let him bury you with it. Harper inhaled shakily, trying to gather pieces of a strength she wasn't sure she still had. Before she could answer, her phone buzzed again. But this time, it wasn't Trenton. It was a number she didn't recognize. A message. Miss Lane, this is the Mercer Dynamics Security Office. Mr. Mercer requests a private meeting today. Transportation is already on its way to you. Harper froze. Rose raised an eyebrow. Well then. Looks like the storm isn't done with you yet. Outside, the rumble of a large black SUV rolled to a stop at the curb. And suddenly Harper realized, this wasn't backlash anymore. This was escalation. The black SUV idled outside the Queen's apartment building like something airdropped from a different universe. Sleek, tinted, unmistakably expensive. Harper Lane stood on the sidewalk, clutching her thrift store coat, feeling as if the entire block had somehow tilted beneath her feet. A uniformed driver stepped out and opened the back door with the kind of practiced precision she'd only seen in movies. Miss Lane, he said, Mr. Mercer is expecting you. Expecting her. The words sounded wrong. Harper wasn't someone men like Elias Mercer expected. She was someone they forgot. Inside the SUV, the interior smelled faintly of leather and cedar. The city blurred past as they crossed the bridge toward Midtown, toward glass towers and moneyed silence. Harper twisted her fingers together, replaying last night's dinner in her mind. Had she done something wrong? Had she somehow jeopardized him? But beneath the anxiety sat another truth she didn't want to admit. Part of her was relieved. Finally, someone who knew more than she did was stepping in. Someone powerful? Someone who might explain what was happening. Mercer Dynamics headquarters rose above Lexington Avenue like a monolith of steel and intentioned 40 stories of polished glass catching the morning sun. Security greeted her by name. Her name? Harper felt small and enormous at the same time. Upstairs, she was led into a conference room overlooking the East River. The room was minimal, white walls, long table, silent screens. A single figure stood by the window, watching the water below. Elias Mercer. He didn't turn immediately when she entered. For a moment, he was just a silhouette framed by morning light, hands loosely in his pockets. When he finally faced her, his expression was unreadable. Miss Lane, he said. Thank you for coming. I didn't have much of a choice, Harper admitted, her voice thin but steady. His lips twitched, almost into a smile. Fair enough. Please, sit. She sat. He didn't. He placed a tablet in front of her. On the screen was the viral video, her laugh, the skyline, his face, the entire internet deciding she must be someone special, or someone scandalous. I assume you've seen this, he said. Unfortunately, Harper whispered. Then, unexpectedly, Elias leaned forward, bracing his hands on the table. His eyes cool, steel blue held hers with an intensity she wasn't prepared for. Miss Lane, I need to ask you something directly. She braced herself. Who sent you? Her breath caught. What? Someone leaks my movements, he said quietly. Someone knew where I'd be last night. And now a conveniently timed video appears. You were seated at my table exactly when cameras flashed. So I will ask again, who sent you? Harper felt the blood drain from her face. No one sent me. I'm a server. I was doing my job. He studied her, searching for cracks. You expect me to believe this was coincidence? Yes, she said, voice shaking. Because that's exactly what it was. Silence stretched. Thick, heavy, accusatory. Then something shifted in his eyes. Doubt, regret, recognition. Before he could speak, the conference room door burst open, and a breathless assistant rushed in. Mr. Mercer, we have a problem. Another video just surfaced. Harper's pulse spiked. Another? The assistant turned the screen toward them. Harper's heart stopped. It wasn't from the restaurant. It was from her past. A video she never knew existed. And it threatened to destroy her all over again. The conference room felt colder as the assistant set the tablet on the table, the screen glowing like a warning flare. Harper Lane leaned forward, dread sliding down her spine. The video was grainy, clearly filmed through a cracked phone screen, but she recognized the setting instantly. The Riverside Drive apartment. Her old home. Trenton Hale's voice echoed faintly in the frame, mocking, dismissive. You're lucky I even let you live here. You don't bring value, Harper. Sign it, or you can pack your things tonight. Her breath stuttered. She hadn't known he recorded anything. The assistant whispered, Sir, this clip is circulating anonymously. Comment sections think it proves Miss Lane is unstable and that you're involved with her under questionable circumstances. Harper squeezed her shaking hands together. Elias Mercer's expression darkened not at her, but at the situation. A storm gathering behind his eyes. He dismissed the assistant with a curt nod. The door clicked shut. For several seconds, neither spoke. Then, Miss Lane. Elias exhaled slowly, moving to sit across from her, tone no longer sharp but controlled, deliberate. I owe you an apology. Her eyes flicked up. For thinking I was spying on you? For everything, he said. For the accusation. For the assumption. For adding fuel to a fire you were already burning inside of. His honesty hit harder than the accusation ever had. You didn't deserve that kind of scrutiny, Elias added. Not from the public, not from me. Harper swallowed hard. You didn't know. No, he agreed, but I see it now. End quote. He tapped the tablet, showing Trenton's voice berating her. This wasn't the voice of a man being wronged. This was the voice of a man who feared losing control. A lump rose in Harper's throat. She hated that he was right. Hated that he saw through her so quickly. Elias leaned back, fingers steepled. This video is damaging. It paints a dangerous narrative. If we let Trenton control the story, he will. I know, she whispered. Which is why, Elias continued, I'd like to offer you something. Protection. Guidance. And a chance to reclaim your story, not as a scandal, but as truth. Her breath caught. Why would you help me? Elias hesitated. His gaze softened, not pity, but something far warmer, something he tried to hide. Because someone took advantage of you. Because you didn't deserve any of this. And because... He paused, almost choosing not to say the last part. You remind me what it looks like when someone still tries to stand, even after life crushes them. Harper felt heat rise behind her eyes. No one had noticed her strength in years. Not even she had noticed it. But before she could answer, Elias's phone buzzed sharply. He glanced at the screen, and his jaw tightened. He turned the phone toward her. A headline glowed across a news banner. Trenton Hale speaks out. My ex-wife is manipulating billionaire Elias Mercer. If you wassa. Harper's stomach dropped. And beneath the headline was a photo. A photo she had never seen. A close-up of her entering the SUV that morning. Harper Lane had imagined the ways Trenton might retaliate, but nothing prepared her for seeing her own face splashed across a breaking news headline as if she were some scandal-hungry social climber. The photo was unmistakable. Her stepping into the black SUV that morning, hair still damp from a rushed shower, coat too thin for the wind. Without context, it looked incriminating. With context, it looked desperate. Either way, Trenton knew exactly what he was doing. Elias Mercer read the headline twice, then lowered the phone with a slow, controlled exhale, the kind that suggested the fuse on a much larger explosion. He coordinated this, he said. Timed it. Leveraged the morning press cycle. Harper's throat tightened. Of course he did. Trenton never lets a story breathe unless he's the one writing it. Inspection. But hearing her own voice crack made something inside Elias harden. He crossed the room, stopping just short of touching her. A respectful distance, but undeniably protective. This isn't your fault, Miss Lane. No, she whispered. But the world doesn't know that. He hesitated. The world can be redirected. Harper looked at him, confusion sharpening her features. Why redirect anything for me? You barely know me. This could blow back on you. Elias didn't answer right away. Instead, he tapped the tablet and pulled up a statement Trenton had released to the media. The text was dripping with polished, corporate venom. I fear my ex-wife is emotionally unstable and vulnerable to manipulation. I hope Mr. Mercer understands the complicated circumstances she carries. Harper felt her chest cave in. He's framing me as a liability, Elias finished. A woman who cannot be trusted. Classic reputational inversion. She swallowed hard. He's done this before. Quietly, subtly. Gaslighting is his first language. Elias studied her, his expression shifting from analysis to something more personal, something that felt like anger on her behalf. Then it's time someone speaks louder than he does. But how? I'll issue a statement, Elias said, clarifying that you were helping me deflect paparazzi interference. That you've done nothing wrong. Harper shook her head. That'll only make them dig deeper. They'll twist it. They always twist it. Thank you for watching. An eye warm. Not if we control the angle, Elias said. Not if we move first. His confidence was steady enough to breathe into, but Harper's instincts, honed from years under Trenton's psychological weight, warned her that any attention could become ammunition. Still, another part of her, the part fighting to be heard, whispered, "You're allowed to be defended." Before she could respond, Elias's assistant rushed back into the conference room. "Sir, we've just uncovered something else. A private group chat from Hale & Co. employees is circulating online." Harper's stomach tightened. "What does it say?" The assistant grimaced. "It claims you were having an affair with Mr. Hale, that you were emotionally unstable, that you ruined his career." Harper's breath left her all at once. "He's rewriting everything." "Not anymore," Elias said, voice low and edged like steel. "We're going to dismantle every lie he's told." The assistant hesitated. "There's more." "Ander." Elias turned sharply. "What now?" The assistant swallowed. "A second video just dropped. This one, from inside Hale & Co. headquarters." Harper's heart pounded. "Of what?" The assistant handed the phone to Elias, who watched only 3 seconds before his eyes darkened. He turned the screen to Harper, revealing Trenton and Savannah in a conversation that would change the entire game. The conference room felt smaller as Harper Lane and Elias Mercer watched the leaked video from Hale & Co. headquarters. In it, Savannah Brooks stood with her arms crossed, voice sharpened like glass. "Trenton, your little ex-wife is getting too much attention. If this story keeps trending, our investors will think you're unstable." Trenton scoffed, pacing. "She's nothing. She won't survive this level of scrutiny. She never does." Savannah's tone dropped into something smug. "Then, push harder. Leak more. If she gets sympathy, you lose credibility. And if you lose credibility..." Savannah didn't finish the sentence. She didn't need to. Career death was implied. Harper felt sick. All these years, Trenton had made her believe she was overreacting, sensitive, imagining things. Yet here he was, strategizing against her like she was a political opponent. Elias paused the video. "This is enough to expose him publicly. Enough to clear your name." Harper wrapped her arms around herself. "It's enough to destroy him. I have." In a tender, Elias met her eyes. "After everything he has done, does that bother you?" She didn't answer. Not because she didn't know, but because the truth was heavy, unfamiliar. No, it didn't bother her. But fear still clung to her ribs. "Even with this video," Harper whispered, "people might still think I'm using you. The internet doesn't care about facts, they just want a villain." Elias sat down across from her, his posture shifting from CEO to something more human, more careful. "Then give them a hero instead." She blinked. "A hero? I want to help you reclaim your story," Elias said. "Not as damage control for me. Your situation isn't a threat to my company, but your reputation is being attacked. Brutally, strategically. If we don't direct the narrative, Trenton will." Harper swallowed. "What does directing the narrative even look like?" "I'll set up an official interview with a reputable outlet," Elias explained. "A long-form piece, not clickbait. You tell the truth. Your version. Your voice." Harper stiffened. "I don't want to be famous." "You won't be," Elias said gently, "but you will be understood and protected." Her gaze flicked up. "You keep saying that. Protected. Why?" Elias inhaled slowly, as if deciding how much to reveal. "Because I've seen people get destroyed by someone they once trusted. Because your story matters more than the lies being spun about you. And because..." He stopped himself. The air felt charged. "Because what?" Harper asked softly. Elias didn't answer. Instead, he turned his tablet around again, showing her something new. Architectural sketches, clean lines, bold curves. Her sketches. Her unfinished concepts. The ones she'd left behind. Harper stared at him, stunned. "Where did you get these?" "You left your sketchbook in the SUV," he said. "I looked through it. You're gifted, Miss Lane." Her breath caught. No one had said that to her in years. I'd like to offer you a position, Elias continued. A real opportunity. You'd work with our cultural development division, gallery redesigns, community spaces. Your vision, on a city scale. Harper's pulse thudded. You barely know me. I know enough, he said simply. And I'd like to know more. Before she could respond, Elias's office phone rang sharp, urgent. He answered, listened, then his expression dropped into something grim. He hung up and faced her. Harper, Trenton just leaked another story. And this one could ruin you completely. We need to act now. Harper Lane had never set foot in a building like Mercer Tower before. The elevator alone felt like stepping into another dimension. Glass walls, soft gold lighting, and a view of Manhattan unfolding beneath her feet as though the city were bowing in acknowledgement. She tried not to stare, but it was impossible. This wasn't just wealth, it was altitude. Altitude she had never expected to reach. The doors opened to the 60th floor with a soft chime. The Cultural Development Division, Elias's proposed department for her, looked more like an art museum than an office. Walls of floating frames, prototypes of public installations, mood boards pinned with precision. As she walked in, conversation stopped. Heads lifted. Eyes flicked over her thrifted blouse, her worn boots, her hair pulled back with a dollar store clip. Harper felt every stare like a spotlight. A tall woman with a razor-sharp bob approached, her heels clicking decisively. You must be Miss Lane, she said, extending a hand with corporate polish stiffness. I'm Clarissa Rowe, the division lead. Mr. Mercer told us you'd be joining us for an observational session. Observational? Harper repeated. Clarissa's smile didn't reach her eyes. Yes, we weren't aware he was bringing in outside creatives. The pause was pointed. But we're adaptable. Wiser. Harper felt heat rise to her cheeks. She wanted to shrink, to disappear, but another voice surfaced, Rose's voice. You don't apologize for existing. Elias appeared from the far end of the room, and the tension shifted immediately. His presence wasn't loud, but it shifted gravity. Miss Lane, he greeted, softer than his corporate demeanor. Let me show you the project I mentioned. He led her to a large digital board displaying a 3D model of a community arts space, light-filled rooms. Curved wooden structures, murals in progress. What do you think? Elias asked genuinely. Harper hesitated, glancing at the design team behind her. Clarissa's folded arms dared her to speak. But Harper stepped closer to the screen, studying the lines, the shadows, the cold geometry that lacked soul. It's beautiful, she began carefully, but it feels empty. Like a gallery trying too hard to be a home. Clarissa scoffed under her breath. Elias didn't flinch. Go on. And from. Harper pointed to one corner. This section, if you open the ceiling beams instead of closing them, you'd get natural light. People feel safer in bright spaces, especially kids. And here, she traced the model lightly with her fingertip. If you adjust the walkway, you create a natural gathering point, a place for conversation. Silence. Then Elias murmured, She's right. Clarissa's jaw dropped. Mr. Mercer, with all respect. No, Elias said, calm but final. She's right. Okay. He turned to Harper again. Would you be willing to sketch your vision? I'd like the team to see your interpretation. Her heart thudded. Yes, of course. A workstation was cleared for her. Fresh pencils, blank paper, tools she hadn't touched in years, not in a space where creativity mattered. Harper sat, inhaled, and began to draw. Lines flowed faster than she expected, like her hands had been waiting for this moment longer than she realized. When she finished the first draft and looked up, the entire team was behind her, silent, evaluating. Clarissa's expression was unreadable. Elias's was not. He looked impressed, moved, even. But just as Harper started to breathe easier, another voice cut through the air. One of the analysts rushed in, breathless, holding a tablet. Mr. Mercer, something new just dropped online. It's about Miss Lane. Harper froze. The analyst added, voice barely steady. And this one is bad. Everyone. The analyst's trembling hands were enough to tell Harper Lane that whatever had surfaced would not be a small rumor or careless tweet. Elias Mercer took the tablet, jaw clenching, as he scanned the headline. His eyes darkened not with confusion this time, but with something colder. He turned the screen toward her. Harper Lane, the artist with a documented history of emotional instability. Thank you for watching. Below the headline was a screenshot of what looked like a psychological evaluation, signed, dated, and stamped. Except Harper had never seen it before, never taken any evaluation, never signed any release form. Her throat tightened. This is fake. Elias nodded slowly. I know, but the public won't. The article cited anonymous corporate sources, claiming Harper had been a liability during her marriage. Unreliable, dramatic, incapable of handling stress. It was Trenton's language. Word for word. He'd weaponized the same phrases he used to break her down behind closed doors. Harper's vision blurred. She didn't realize she'd sat down until her palms met the cold edge of the table. Clarissa Rowe crossed her arms, but not with her earlier arrogance. This time she looked unsettled. Who would go this far? Elias answered without hesitation. Someone who's terrified of losing control. Someone desperate. Harper's breath came unevenly. He's rewriting my entire identity. Again. Elias crouched beside her chair, voice low but steady. Miss Lane, look at me. She lifted her eyes. This is not you, he said. This is a man fabricating proof because he knows the truth is slipping out of his reach. Harper shook her head, fighting tears she didn't want him to see. But people already believe I'm unstable. They'll take this as confirmation. And the art world, Elias, my chances of ever rebuilding anything are not gone, he interrupted firmly. Not unless you allow him to define your narrative, and I don't think you will. His confidence in her felt undeserved, but grounding. Still, the old wounds pressed hard against her ribs. Years of gaslighting didn't vanish just because someone finally believed her. Her voice cracked. I don't know how to fight this. Elias stood, exhaling through his nose in determination. Then let someone fight with you. You're not alone in this anymore. But Harper wasn't sure she believed that. Not fully. Not yet. That night, back in her small room in Queens, Rose Callahan waited by the door with 2 mugs of peppermint tea. Bad day? She asked gently. Harper collapsed onto the bed. They published a report saying, I'm emotionally unstable. Rose didn't flinch. Let me guess, Trenton's fingerprints all over it? Harper nodded miserably. Rose set 1 mug on the nightstand, then walked to her bookshelf. She pulled down an old, leather-bound folder, placed it beside Harper, and said, Sweetheart, I wasn't just a divorce lawyer. I specialized in dismantling men like him. Harper blinked. What does that mean? Rose opened the folder. Inside were legal notes, case summaries, and something else, something that made Harper sit upright. It was a document with Savannah Brooks's name on it. A restraining order. From years ago. Rose's voice dropped. If you thought Trenton was dangerous alone, wait until you see what Savannah is capable of. Harper's blood chilled. Then her phone buzzed. 1 message. 1 sender. Savannah Brooks, we need to talk. Tonight. Come alone. Harper Lane paced the narrow length of her Queens room, Savannah's message burning a hole through her thoughts. Come alone. Those 2 words carried the same cold sharpness as a blade pressed lightly against skin, not enough to cut, but enough to warn. Rose Callahan noticed the way Harper's shoulders tightened. You're not seriously considering meeting that girl, are you? I need answers, Harper whispered. She's part of everything. Maybe she'll slip and reveal something we can use. Rose frowned. Savannah doesn't slip, sweetheart. She slithers. And people like her only call meetings in the dark when they hold something dangerous. Harper swallowed but didn't back down. Something was changing inside her. The fear was still there, heavy, familiar, but beneath it, something stronger pulsed. Resolve. The kind she hadn't felt in years. Rose's eyes softened. If you're going, you're not going unprepared. She handed Harper the folder again, tapping the restraining order. Savannah has a history of manipulating powerful men. She's not just ambitious, she's tactical, calculated. She picks her targets the way snipers pick angles. Harper exhaled shakily. Then maybe it's time I stop being the target and start being the angle. Rose's brows lifted with reluctant admiration. There she is. The Harper I knew was hiding in those quiet eyes. Minutes later, Harper took the subway into Manhattan. Each tunnel, each passing light, felt like shedding a layer of her old life. She wasn't running anymore, she was confronting. Savannah had chosen a trendy rooftop lounge on 44th Street, one of those places with fairy lights, overpriced cocktails, and a view that made mediocre people feel important. Harper spotted her instantly, perched on a velvet chair, red coat draped over her shoulders like a warning sign. Savannah smiled when Harper approached. It was the kind of smile designed to look friendly from a distance and dangerous up close. "Harper Lane," she said coolly. "The woman of the hour." Harper sat. "Why did you want to meet?" Savannah twirled her straw. "Let's skip the formalities. You're ruining things for me." "For you?" Harper repeated. Savannah sighed, annoyed. "Yes, for me. Trenton's unraveling, the board is whispering, investors are jittery. Your little viral moment threw everything off balance." Harper kept her voice steady. "And whose fault is that?" Savannah crossed her legs, eyes glittering. "Trenton is sloppy, but he's useful. You were supposed to stay quiet. Fade out. Now you're becoming a complication." Harper leaned forward. "And what exactly do you think you can do about me?" Savannah's smile sharpened. "I can make you disappear from the narrative again. I have things you don't want going public. Messages, old emails, footage you don't even know exists." Harper's pulse spiked, but she held her ground. "You're lying." Savannah's brows rose. "Am I?" She slid a flash drive across the table. "This is a preview. Proof that you don't get to rewrite the story." Harper stared at the flash drive, fear and fury locking together in her chest. "And in return," Savannah continued, "I expect you to walk away from Mercer Dynamics. Turn down Elias's offer. Stop making headlines. Go back to being nobody." Harper didn't touch the flash drive. Didn't blink. Didn't fold. Instead, she said quietly, "What if I don't?" Savannah's smile faded. Her eyes went cold. "Then," she whispered, "I'll destroy you, and Elias Mercer won't be able to save you." And just as Harper stood to leave, her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. One sentence. "Harper, do not trust Savannah. She's not working alone." Her breath froze. Someone else was pulling the strings. The Plaza Hotel shimmered like a palace carved out of gold the night Harper Lane stepped through its revolving doors. Crystal chandeliers washed the room in warm brilliance, and the velvet red carpet felt too soft beneath her thrifted heels. She had borrowed a black satin dress from Rose, simple, elegant, and almost unrecognizable on her. For the first time in years, Harper didn't feel invisible. She felt possible. But possibility was a dangerous thing in a room full of people trained to weaponize perception. Her name wasn't on the guest list as a date or a guest of honor. Elias Mercer had introduced her as a creative consultant, which technically wasn't a lie, but the way people stared at her, their narrowed eyes, their amused smirks, made it clear what they really wondered. Is she the mystery woman? Is she sleeping with him? Is this how she got in here? A familiar sinking feeling pressed against Harper's ribs. Trenton had trained her to read judgment in the smallest glance. She could almost hear him whispering behind her ear, "You don't belong in rooms like this." But when Elias appeared at her side, everything stilled. His presence didn't demand attention, it commanded it. Quiet power, controlled elegance. A man who made boardrooms lean forward just by breathing. "You made it," he said softly, and the warmth in his eyes wasn't something he tried to hide. Harper exhaled. "Barely. You look." Elias paused, searching for a word he seemed hesitant to say. "Remarkable." Before she could respond, a woman in a shimmering gold gown approached Chloe Stanton, one of the most recognizable investors on Wall Street. Her eyes flicked from Harper to Elias with the precision of a scanner. "Elias," Chloe purred, "you finally brought someone worth photographing." Harper stiffened. "I'm not." Chloe cut her off with a light laugh. "Relax, dear. The camera loves a fresh face." Then she leaned closer to Elias. "Did your PR team approve this? Because she reads romantic, and the market reacts to your relationship status more than you think." Elias's jaw tightened. "Harper is here because she is part of the creative team." Chloe arched a perfectly sculpted brow. "Is that what we're calling it now?" Harper flushed. The implication was unmistakable. Before Elias could respond, the ballroom doors opened, and the crowd parted as if on cue. Trenton Hale and Savannah Brooks entered arm in arm, dripping in arrogance. Savannah spotted Harper first, her smile widened like a blade being unsheathed. Trenton's gaze followed and froze. He wasn't expecting her to be here. He especially wasn't expecting her to look elevated. Savannah's voice sliced through the music. Well, if it isn't the internet's favorite charity case. Conversations around them quieted. Guests leaned in. Cameras discreetly lifted. Elias stepped forward, subtle but unmistakably protective. This is neither the time nor the place. Savannah smirked. Oh, I disagree. It's the perfect place. Chloe, now intrigued, whispered to her fiancé. My God, is this about to become entertainment? Eyes focused. Phones hovered. Tension coiled. Trenton cleared his throat dramatically. Harper, you shouldn't be here. These events are for people who actually contribute something to the industry. If we to Zod. Harper steadied herself. No shaking, no shrinking. And you think leaking lies is a contribution? A collective gasp rippled across the room. Trenton's expression cracked. You don't know what you're talking about. Oh, but I do, Harper said, voice steadier than she felt. And so will everyone else. Savannah blinked. What are you implying? Harper opened her clutch and pulled out the flash drive Savannah had given her. She held it between two fingers, like a poison vial. I think it's time the truth came out. The room shifted. Anticipation thick as smoke. But before she could say more, a sharp voice came from behind her. Harper Lane, step away from them. You need to hear this right now. She turned and froze. It was someone she never expected to see. And they looked terrified. Terrified for her. Harper Lane spun toward the voice calling her name, the ballroom fading into a muffled hum behind her. Standing at the edge of the marble staircase, breathless and pale, was Elias's head of security, Marcus Lay. Normally impenetrable and stoic, Marcus looked shaken, something Harper didn't think was physically possible for a man built like a reinforced wall. Miss Lane, he said urgently, you need to come with me. Now. The room bristled with curiosity. Cameras followed her every step as Marcus ushered her past waiters holding champagne flutes, past clusters of executives pretending not to eavesdrop. Elias trailed behind them, silent but watchful, jaw tight. When Marcus pushed open the rooftop doors, cold night air slapped Harper's cheeks, grounding her. The rooftop was strung with soft lights, the Manhattan skyline glowing like a field of stars. But the beauty did nothing to lessen the dread curling in her stomach. What's going on? Harper asked. Marcus didn't answer immediately. He looked at Elias, who gave him a stiff nod permission. Marcus turned to Harper. We intercepted a message between Savannah Brooks and an unknown third party. They were planning something tonight. Something involving you. Harper's pulse spiked. What kind of something? Marcus exhaled. A coordinated takedown. They intended to provoke you into a public meltdown. They planted people downstairs, bloggers, influencers, gossip reporters. Savannah was going to bait you, and the moment you reacted, they'd spread an edited video portraying you as unstable. It was supposed to drop tonight. Harper felt her breath catch. Of course, Savannah wouldn't come alone to that rooftop lounge. Of course, she wouldn't hand over a flash drive without a trap attached. Elias stepped closer. They wanted to destroy your credibility before we could release any statement defending you. Harper steadied herself against the railing. The wind tugged gently at her dress, but her insides trembled. Why go to these lengths? Why am I such a threat to them? Because, Marcus said quietly, Trenton has everything to lose, and Savannah has everything to gain. Elias added, and because you have something neither of them expected you to have: public sympathy. Power. Visibility. People are on your side more than they realize. Harper's eyes burned. For so long she had been powerless, voiceless, invisible. But now she was dangerous because she existed outside their control. What do we do? She whispered. Elias exchanged a glance with Marcus. We counter, he said. We tell the truth before their lies spread. Tonight. Harper hesitated. Elias, if we go public now, the backlash could get worse. For your company. For you. Elias held her gaze. I'm not protecting my reputation, Harper. I'm protecting yours. The rooftop doors suddenly burst open. Savannah stormed out, her red coat billowing like a warning flag. Trenton followed, looking wild-eyed and cornered. There you are, Savannah hissed. Do you really think you can hide from what's coming? Harper stepped forward, no longer afraid. Actually, Savannah, I think it's you who should worry. Trenton sneered. You're nothing, Harper. Without me, you're free, Harper cut in. Finally free, Savannah snarled. You don't understand the game you're in. Harper lifted the flash drive. Funny, I was about to say the same to you. Before Savannah could respond, Marcus's phone buzzed. He looked at the screen, and his eyes widened in real fear. Elias, he said sharply, we have a new problem. He turned the screen toward them. A third person had just leaked something explosive, and this time, it wasn't aimed at Harper. It was aimed at Elias. Marcus Lee's expression alone told Harper Lane that whatever had leaked into the world wasn't just another rumor, it was a weapon. A deliberate strike. Elias snatched the phone from Marcus's hand, and for the first time since she'd met him, Harper saw something crack through his composed exterior. Not fear, something sharper, something wounded. Harper stepped closer. What is it? Elias didn't answer immediately. He simply turned the screen so she could see. A headline glowed across a breaking news alert. Expose. Did Elias Mercer pay off a woman from his past? Harper blinked, confused. What? What is this? Marcus exhaled through his teeth. It's fake, fabricated. Someone created a story suggesting Mr. Mercer had a secret settlement with an ex-girlfriend to hide misconduct. Harper looked at Elias, shocked. That's not true, is it? Elias straightened, his voice steady but colder than Manhattan steel. No, absolutely not. Savannah's lips curled. You see, everyone has dirt, Harper. Even your white knight billionaire. Trenton added smugly. Now he's just as compromised as you. Maybe worse. Harper turned fully toward them. Why go after him? What does Elias have to do with your war against me? Savannah stepped forward, her heels clicking like the countdown of a bomb. Because protecting you makes him unpredictable. And unpredictable men are dangerous in our world. Trenton folded his arms. And because if Elias falls, Harper falls with him. No one will believe a word she says once this scandal attaches to his name. Harper's stomach twisted not with fear, but with fury she didn't recognize in herself. So this was never just about destroying me. Savannah's smile widened. Of course not. It's about eliminating obstacles. And Elias finally spoke, low and lethal. You underestimate the power of truth, Miss Brooks. Savannah laughed softly. Truth? Elias, sweetie, no one cares about truth. They care about optics. Marcus stepped forward. Mr. Mercer, we've confirmed the source. This leak came from an encrypted channel tied to Hale & Co.'s internal network. Trenton paled. What? That's impossible. Marcus's voice sharpened. Someone inside your company pushed this story out with traces leading directly back to your own login. Savannah's eyes flicked toward Trenton, just a flicker, but enough for Harper to see it. Betrayal. Fear. Calculation. You set me up. Trenton hissed under his breath. Savannah shrugged, unfazed. Don't pout. You were predictable. Harper felt the last piece click into place. Savannah hadn't been working for Trenton, she'd been working him. Manipulating him. Using his ego as a tool. And she wasn't afraid of burning him alive to get what she wanted. Elias looked at Harper, voice quiet but unshakably firm. We can end this, not with statements, with evidence, with their own actions. Harper nodded, chest tightening with something fierce. Then let's expose them. All of them. Savannah blinked. You think you can win? You don't understand the world you're stepping into. Harper stepped closer, meeting her eye without flinching. Maybe not. But I understand you. Thanks for watching. Something flickered in Savannah's expression, brief, startled. And then, the rooftop door burst open again. A security guard rushed out, breathless. Mr. Mercer, we have a situation downstairs. A major situation. Elias tensed. What now? The guard swallowed hard. Your private servers were breached, and the intruder left a message addressed to Harper Lane. The elevator ride down from the plaza rooftop felt like descending into a war zone Harper Lane had never volunteered to fight in. Elias Mercer stood beside her, silent but radiating a storm of calculation. Marcus Lee was already on his comms, coordinating security with the calm of someone trained for disaster. Harper held the railing, her breath shallow, her pulse too loud. A private server breach. A message addressed specifically to her. Why would someone hack your systems to reach me? Harper asked, voice thin. Elias shook his head. I don't know. But whoever did this is highly skilled. We need to assume the message is intentional and dangerous. When the elevator doors opened, they were met with chaos. Security guards rushed down a hallway lined with LED panels flashing red alerts. Executives hovered in clusters, terrified to say anything out loud. Harper felt eyes on her, confusion, suspicion, fear, like she was a walking omen. Marcus guided them into the secure command center. Multiple screens filled the walls, each broadcasting the same thing. A black screen with white text in the center. A single sentence. Harper Lane, you deserve to know the full story. Harper's stomach twisted. The full story of what? A technician swallowed hard. Ma'am, the intruder didn't take anything. They uploaded something. Harper's throat tightened. Uploaded what? Footage, the tech said. Audio files, email threads. Elias stepped forward, hands braced on the console. Play the first file. The speakers crackled, then Trenton's voice filled the room. Savannah, listen to me. I can't keep lying to her forever. If Harper finds out what we did to get her contract declined, Savannah cut him off. She won't. She never asks questions, and even if she does, you'll gaslight her like you always do. She's easy to manipulate. You picked well. Harper's breath left her body. Her knees nearly buckled. Years of doubt, of self-blame, of thinking she overreacted. All of it shattered in an instant. The next clip loaded automatically. Savannah again, colder this time. Once Harper signs the dissolution clause, your finances open up. The board will respect you more without that dead weight hanging on your arm. Dead weight? Harper pressed a hand to her mouth. Elias closed his eyes, briefly grief for her, for what she endured, passing through him like a shadow. A third file surfaced. This time, the voice wasn't Trenton or Savannah. It was someone else. Someone Harper had never heard before. Marcus frowned. Who is that? The voice said, You moved too early, Savannah. Mercer wasn't supposed to get involved. Clean your tracks. And if Harper Lane becomes a liability, handle it. Harper felt ice crawl up her spine. Who is that? She whispered again. Elias's face drained of color. I know that voice. Marcus stiffened. Sir, that's... But before he could finish, the room plunged into sudden darkness. The screens flickered. Alarms blared. A new message appeared on every monitor. This is your final warning. Stop digging. Harper's hands trembled. Elias stepped in front of her, instinctive, protective. And then Marcus shouted, We have an intruder inside the building. The command center erupted into motion as alarms wailed, bathing the room in pulsing red light. Harper Lane stood frozen for half a second, long enough to understand that this wasn't chaos, it was strategy. Someone wanted confusion. Someone wanted fear. Someone wanted her off balance. Marcus barked orders into his comms. Lock every floor. Shut down elevator access. No one leaves this building. Elias grabbed Harper's wrist, not roughly, but firmly, as if instinct alone chose for him. Stay close to me. She had no intention of doing anything else. Security guards rushed past them, weapons drawn. The air hummed with urgency, but beneath it was something sharper. The knowledge that whoever breached Mercer Dynamics wasn't just a hacker hiding behind a screen. They were here. Inside, moving, watching. A tech specialist at the console yelled, Sir, we have a signal trace. The intruder is accessing the cultural development floor. Harper's heart lurched. Her sketches, her work, her new beginning. Why that floor? She whispered. Elias answered grimly, Because that's where your files are, and someone wants them erased or altered. Harper's stomach twisted. The intruder wasn't after corporate secrets. They were after her life. Marcus led them into a secure stairwell. The elevators are compromised. We take the stairs, move fast, stay together. Harper struggled to keep up with the long strides of two men trained for crisis, but adrenaline pushed her forward. Every step was a reminder. She was done being prey. When they burst onto the cultural development floor, the lights were already flickering. Papers were strewn across the hall. A security guard lay unconscious, breathing, but out cold. Elias knelt beside him. This wasn't random. They knew exactly where to go. From inside the design studio, a shadow shifted. A figure in black, hoodie drawn, typing rapidly into a console that controlled project files. Harper recognized the silhouette instantly. The tension in the shoulders. The sharpness of the movements. No, Harper whispered. It can't be. But it was. Savannah Brooks stepped into the light. smirking like someone who'd already won. "Hello, Harper," she purred. "Welcome to the part of the story where everything you've built goes up in flames." Marcus raised his weapon. "Step away from the system, Miss Brooks." Savannah held up a small device. "I wouldn't." One tap and every file linked to Harper Lane disappears forever. Her art, her proposals, her transcripts, poof, she becomes nobody again. Harper's breath shook. "Why? Why go this far?" Savannah's eyes gleamed with disdain. "Because people like you don't get to rise. You're not built for altitude. But me? I have climbed too far to let some trembling little artist expose me." Elias stepped forward, voice deadly calm. "You're destroying evidence, Savannah." "No," she corrected. "I'm destroying possibilities." "Azure." Harper suddenly found her voice steady, strong. "You're terrified. That's why you're here, because you know the truth is slipping." Savannah's facade cracked just a hairline fracture. "You don't know anything." "But Harper did." She finally did. "You've spent your whole life controlling narratives," Harper said. "But you forgot something." She stepped closer. Elias reached out instinctively, but Harper shook her head. This moment was hers. "You forgot that the truth doesn't need permission to surface." Savannah pressed her thumb against the device. "Then let's see which truth survives." And before anyone could react, the overhead speakers crackled to life with a voice neither Harper nor Elias expected to hear again. A voice that said, "Savannah Brooks, step away. We're not finished." Harper's blood turned to ice. She knew that voice. They all did. It was Trenton Hale. Trenton Hale's voice poured through the speakers like poison dripping into clean water. Savannah Brooks froze mid-motion, thumbs still hovering over the device that could erase Harper Lane's entire future. Her expression twisted, startled first, then furious. "Trenton?" she hissed. "How did you?" The speakers crackled again. "You really thought I wouldn't figure out what you were doing, Savannah?" Elias Mercer's eyes narrowed. Marcus Lee motioned for his team to fan out along the edges of the room. Harper's breath caught in her throat. Trenton wasn't supposed to be anywhere near the building. Savannah lifted her chin. "You weren't supposed to interfere. And you," Trenton snapped, "weren't supposed to betray me." A sick laugh escaped Savannah. "Betray? You used me as a stepping stone. I simply stepped back." Harper's heart pounded as truths collided like broken glass around her. Savannah and Trenton turning on each other. The perfect storm of ego, panic, and unraveling lies. Trenton continued, voice sharper now. "You weren't smart enough to cover your tracks. You hacked into Mercer's servers using my credentials. You dragged my name into this. And now the board is on the verge of firing me." Savannah's eyes widened. "Firing you?" Trenton's voice cracked. "You ruined me." Savannah laughed, loud this time, unhinged. "You ruined yourself the moment you underestimated me." Harper stepped forward. "Enough." Her voice sliced through the chaos. Everyone turned. Even Savannah faltered. Harper looked between them, two people who had shaped her suffering, who had built labyrinths of manipulation around her life, now devouring each other in real time. "You both spent years trying to convince me I was small," she said quietly. "Forgettable, replaceable. But look at you now, you're destroying each other because you lost control of me." Savannah glared. "You were never a threat." Harper stepped closer. "Then why are you both fighting for your lives over mine?" Savannah's jaw twitched. Trenton fell silent. Harper continued, voice steady, spine straightening. "I'm done being the victim in a story you wrote." Marcus took a cautious step toward Savannah. "Put the device down." But Savannah's anger whipped back to life. "You think she won? You think Elias can save her?" She pointed at Harper with the device. "Once I destroy her files, her reputation will crumble. She'll be nothing again." Elias moved in front of Harper without thinking. "You underestimate her." Savannah sneered. "No, Elias, you do." She pressed her thumb. But nothing happened. The device blinked red. Marcus smiled coldly. "We disabled the kill code the second you stepped onto this floor. You were never in control. And everyone." Savannah's face drained of color. Trenton let out a bitter laugh. "Looks like the master manipulator just got played." Savannah spun toward him, hatred glowing in her eyes. "You did this." Trenton smirked. "And now you take the fall." But it was too late. Security had already surrounded them. Elias turned to Harper, voice low. It's over. Harper shook her head softly. Not yet. They still need to be held accountable. Marcus stepped forward. Miss Lane, you might want to hear this. End quote. He handed her a tablet. On the screen was a notification. A live press conference was starting outside Mercer Tower. Trenton Hale's board of directors had just issued a public statement. The headline read, Hale & Co. terminates Trenton Hale, full investigation into corporate misconduct underway. Harper felt her knees weaken. Elias caught her hand steady, grounding. But then Marcus cleared his throat again, eyes wide. Harper, there's more. He turned the screen. Someone had just leaked a second file. Not about Trenton. Not about Savannah. About her. The command center went silent as the second file loaded on the screen, every monitor, every display, suddenly shifting from warning red to a soft white glow. Harper Lane braced herself. After everything Trenton and Savannah had thrown at her, she expected another lie, another fabricated weapon meant to crush her spirit. But instead, it was a video. Old, grainy, filmed years ago. A younger Harper stood in an art studio, surrounded by canvases covered in color. Her voice, bright, hopeful, floated through the speakers. I just want to build places people can breathe in. Spaces where life feels lighter. Elias blinked. Harper, that's you. She stared, stunned. She knew this recording, she'd forgotten it existed. A classmate must have filmed it during her final semester at NYU, before her scholarship was mysteriously revoked. Before Trenton. Before the silence. The video continued with her portfolio reviews, professors praising her vision, her designs, proof she had talent, proof she had potential, proof she never needed Trenton's approval to exist. The final frame held a single message. The world deserved to see who Harper Lane was before they tried to break her. Harper's eyes filled. It wasn't an attack. It was a lifeline. Someone out there wanted her restored, not erased. Elias's voice broke softly. Harper, this changes everything. This proves your brilliance isn't new. It isn't manufactured. It's who you've always been. Savannah scoffed weakly from the corner where security held her. Who cares about some art school video? Elias turned toward her, eyes glacial. The investors, the public, the courts. He stepped closer, and most importantly, me. Savannah's glare faltered. Trenton paled. Marcus approached Harper gently. Ma'am, the video's blowing up online. The narrative flipped. People aren't questioning your stability anymore. They're questioning theirs. Elias added sharply, glancing at Trenton and Savannah. Harper took a long breath, steady, grounding, powerful. I want to press charges, she said. Both of them. For harassment, defamation, digital tampering, and personal endangerment. Savannah stiffened. Trenton's jaw dropped. Elias didn't hesitate. Done. My legal team will handle everything. Ender. Security escorted Trenton and Savannah out as their empire of lies collapsed behind them. Cameras flashed. Reporters swarmed. The world they once controlled now consumed them whole. For the first time, Harper felt no fear. Only release. Only justice. Later that night, standing outside Mercer Tower beneath the Manhattan sky, Harper exhaled a breath she'd been holding for years. Elias stepped beside her, quiet but steady. You were extraordinary today, he said. Harper shook her head softly. No, I was finally myself. He smiled, gentle, genuine. I meant what I offered, the position, the project. The future you want is yours to build. Harper looked up at him, the city lights reflecting in her eyes. And what about us? Elias's breath caught. Then he reached for her hand, not forcing, just offering. That, he said, is something I'd like to build too. If you want it. Harper didn't hesitate. For once, she didn't fear taking up space. I do, she whispered. The world felt wide again, bright, open, hers. No longer a woman escaping a life that caged her, but a woman stepping fully into the one she deserved. Harper Lane walked into the night with her future beside her, and her past finally, irrevocably behind. All right, my wonderful friends. So the story has finally come to an end. And you're still here. If you're hearing these words right now, it means something in Harper's journey touched your heart in a way only real struggle and real healing can do. Maybe it reminded you of a time you felt small. Maybe it reminded you of someone who tried to rewrite your worth. Or maybe it reminded you that rising again is possible for anyone. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it." Harper learned that. She learned she wasn't broken, she was simply believing a story someone else wrote. And the moment she reclaimed her narrative, everything changed. That's the lesson for all of us. You are allowed to start over. You are allowed to choose yourself. And you are allowed to rebuild a life that finally feels like home. If this story stayed with you, if it sat beside you like a quiet friend, then let's keep walking together. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so more people can heal, breathe, and find strength through these stories. I'm right here with you, and we're just getting started.